बका काम आपका, जुल्म की क़ज़ा काम आपका, दीन की बका नाम आपका, दीन का निशान मौला हसन, मौला हसन, फातिमा की जान मुर्तज़ा की शान, मौला हसन, मौला हसन। याद है हमें अर्ज़ करबला, अर्ज़तें लगी ढेर हो गया, इस तरह लड़ा आपका जवान, मौला हसन, मौला हसन, फातिमा की जान मुर्तज़ा की शान, मौला हसन, मौला हसन। आपसे लड़े क्या कोई अदू, आप सा नहीं कोई जंगजू, तीर है कलम हाथ है कमा, मौला हसन, मौला हसन, फातिमा की जान मुर्तज़ा की शान, मौला हसन, मौला हसन। ये करीम ज़ीशान ने कहा क्यों न हम करें जिक्र आपका, आपके लिए है मिली ज़बान, मौला हसन, मौला हसन, फातिमा की जान मुर्तज़ा की शान, मौला हसन, मौला हसन। पर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु।
One more loud salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Respected Sheikh, elders, brothers and sisters in faith, Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum. First of all, congratulations to all Mu'mineen on the birth of our second Imam, Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Before I have the Sheikh ascend the member, just a few reminders and upcoming program snapshots. We would like to inform all mothers in our community, well, not just mothers, young parents in our community that are attending City of Knowledge, about our dedicated infants room. This is for mothers only though. The room has a live feed of the program and it has been set up so that the mothers can be comfortable and the kids can be comfortable, and the attendees that are sitting in the hall can also take full advantage of the speech that is being delivered with the least amount of disturbance possible. So please make use of this room. This is a facility for all of us, inshallah. Another reminder that here at CFK, our aim is to serve all our guests adequately while being morally responsible with your donations and minimizing food wastage. And to that end, we request you to please register whenever you plan to attend our programs so that we have an idea of ordering food so that we can minimize wastage here as well. There are a few upcoming events. There is the moon sighting workshop that is coming up next weekend, April 15th, with Sheikh Amin. Starting today, we will have programs every day running through next Thursday. Sunday is the evening of the 19th of Ramadan, so we will have Amal that night. Similarly, Tuesday night and then Thursday night for the Amal of the night of the 21st and the 23rd. And there are a few more Dallas Youth Group events coming up as well. For those events, details and other events that are coming up, please visit our website, cfktfw.org, or subscribe to our WhatsApp group where you can find details for all of the events that are coming up, inshallah. One last request, please recite 5 times أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ مُضْطَرَ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ for Brother Mohsin Maklai, who is the brother of Noshad and Brother Mahmoud Maklai. He's not feeling very well and is hospitalized currently. And let us all please think of all mu'mineen who are in a state of illness and need assistance. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amman yujibul mustarra iza da'ahu wa yakshifu su. Amman yujibul mustarra iza da'ahu wa yakshifu su. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. I would now like to request the Sheikh to please ascend the member with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. I would like to first express my congratulations to everybody on this auspicious occasion of the birth of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. When we say Imam al-Hassan, this word Hassan, it comes from the same word family as, I had to double check that word family, because it's been a long time since we did that kind of work. Yes, it comes from the same word family as other terms like husn, like ihsan, like muhsin, like Hussein. These are all from the same word family. They go back to the root of husn, which means goodness. Husn means goodness, Hasan means something good, ihsan means to do good. So sometimes when you use the word Hasan, you are speaking of the goodness of a certain aspect of something. So I'll give you an example. If someone has a very nice face, like some of the brothers I'm seeing right now, you say that they are Hasanul Wajh, that their wajh, their face is good looking. Yeah. If someone is good at cooking and they invite me over for iftar, you say they're Hasanul Tabkh, they are good at cooking. Tabkh. Someone's good at basketball, you say Hasanul Basketball probably. Yeah. Sheikh Amin, Hasanul Basketball. Yeah. And so on. Although there is an Arabic term for that, Kuratus Silla, I think we used to call it when we were growing up. Anyway, so Hasan sometimes is used from a specific angle. You're looking at someone in one dimension or another, you're saying they're Hasan in that sense. Sometimes someone's name is Hasan all in all. That means that they are, inshallah, good from every aspect and angle. Yeah? So Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, of course, is going to be the embodiment of husn, the embodiment of goodness and righteousness and doing good, of ihsan. And so now we have a verse in the Quran, I would say it's the most thorough verse in regards to this term ihsan as well, which means to do good. And I want to speak a little bit about that, and then we want to get into some stories of how Imam Hassan alayhi salam is the embodiment of ihsan. Us as his followers and lovers. This Imam, which I would say is the least famous out of the 5 Ashabul Kisa, unfortunately, while his brother Imam Hussein really looked up to him, they say. This the fourth of those 5 companions of the cloak, how he is the embodiment of all of that. So the verse that we have, that I would say is a thorough verse regarding doing good and the rewards that come as a result of doing good, is the following. Surah Yunus verse 26, it says, لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى وَزِيَادَةً وَلَا يَرْهَقُ وُجُوهَهُمْ قَتَرٌ وَلَا ذِلَّةٌ أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ الْجَنَّةِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. Those who do ihsan, okay, ihsan, which is also a name that we at least have in the Iranian culture. I don't know if we have it in, yeah, we do? Okay, good. This ihsan, those who do ihsan, they get 4 things according to this verse. There are 4 things waiting for them. Number 1, al-husna. They get the best of rewards, okay? And of course, it makes sense when you do good to get good. That's why another verse in the Quran says, هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ. Is the reward for good other than good? Now, of course, the good that Allah gives is going to be much better, and He's promised us that. But over here, the second thing it says is وَزِيَادَةً. I will give you good and the best reward. And number 2, ziyada, something extra. Okay? Now, what is that extra? It doesn't specify. It's vague. I would say the reason for that probably, when you keep things vague sometimes, is you want to show how big and great it is actually. Right? So for example, someone you know that is pretty cool when it comes to giving, they're very generous, right? They're like, hey, you have a prize with me. It's different than them telling you it's a toy car when you're a kid growing up. Or when you're actually grown up, it's a car. If they say, hey, I have a prize, and you know this person, when they get generous, they're really generous. Hey, I got a prize for you. Right? Here it says, we give you husna, the best of rewards, and we got a little bit more. It's like Allah is saying, hey, I got you. I got a bonus for you. Something like that. I have an uncle from my mother's side, and he has a very dry sense of humor. And so, very generous person though. Years ago, me and my brothers, we were there back home. He took us to Shumal. Those of you know, you know. Shumal, the north of Iran, is very nice. And so he had a place there. He had a little villa there. He would take us. So the first time we were going with our uncle without mom being with us. Now we're growing up. I'm in my maybe late teens. My brothers are smaller. He says, listen, and he had a thick voice too. There's no breakfast, lunch, dinner on this trip. Just letting you know. Oh my God. Right from the get-go, he messed everything up for me. And so I was worried about there's no breakfast, lunch, dinner. What are we going to do about that? The whole time, forget about the trees and the birds. All right? And enjoying the scenery the whole time, I'm thinking to myself, what are we going to do for breakfast? Early morning, guess what? He stopped for breakfast. He didn't wait till lunch or dinner. He stopped for breakfast. And it was one of the best breakfasts ever that we had on our way to Shuman. Okay? And so I guess he took pleasure in bothering us, like, hey, if you're going to give us a good time, let us, enjoy the scenery as well, instead of just thinking about what we're going to have. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, from then on, whenever Da'i, his name, Da'i means uncle, Da'i Hashim, his name was, if he's watching this, which he's not. Whenever Da'i Hashim would say, hey, we're going to go out somewhere, we knew it was going to be good. All right? Here, the Quran says, لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى. Those who do good are going to get husna, something good in return, or some of the best stuff in return, wa ziyada, and a little bonus. Oh Allah, what is that bonus? Just know that it's going to be good. We're talking about Allah here. Recite salawat, please. Yes, we have another verse, Surah Qaf, verses 31 to 35. It says something similar. It's talking about Yawmul Qiyamah. وَأُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ. That on that day, Jannah is brought close to them. It's interesting. They don't tell you, hey, walk to Jannah. According to this at least, Jannah is brought close to them. اُدْخُلُوهَا بِسَلَامٍ. Enter it with peace. ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْخُلُودِ. This is the day of eternity for you. Once you go into Jannah, you're not coming out, inshallah. لَهُمْ مَا يَشَاءُونَ فِيهَا. They get whatever they wish in there, okay? But guess what? So there are some things that you don't even know are out there to wish for it. Right? And so it says, وَلَدَيْنَا مَزِيد. We have a little bit more extra as well that you don't even know what it is so that you can desire it. That's how great it is. Okay, so this mazid, this ziyada, these are all talking about the same thing. All right, but having said all of that, and not going through through too many details regarding this verse, I want to move on to Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam and how he is the embodiment of ihsan. And ihsan here, I mean in its specific sense. Because ihsan sometimes means you do good. Sometimes it means doing good to others and helping others when they're stuck. Okay? So brothers and sisters, we all know, we've all been there and done that. We have times in our lives when we run into problems and issues as if a lock is set on our life. Okay? What does a lock do? A lock is a little small object. If you try to break it, you have to put in so much energy to try to break this lock. A lock is a small little thing, but it's going to be the biggest obstacle to getting to your destination if you don't have the key to it. So you try your best. You either have to break it or nothing, right? A small little puny lock causes so much headache for us, right? But if you have the key, that lock, which was the biggest obstacle, what happens? With the turn of a wrist, yeah, it opens up. Yeah. Sometimes there are locks in our lives. We don't have the key. The key is in other people's hands. And Allah has put us here so that He sees, okay, who's going to help out who? Who's going to take care of who? Yeah? And who is not. This ihsan sometimes means to help others and to open up the locks that they have in their lives. Because for them, it's a turning of a wrist. For you, it's trying to break it open and you just don't have the means to open up that lock, okay? So Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, I want to share a hadith with you from him tonight as a little Eid gift from Imam al-Hassan to us of 3 things he says when it comes to opening the locks of others and how people can open those locks with these 3. And if they do, what their reward is. The hadith says, Man wasa akhahu bimalin aw jahin aw kalimatin tayyibatin. 3 things. Whoever, I'm going to translate it like this, unlocks the locks that people have in their lives with either their wealth or with their credibility. Jah means when you have a rank somewhere, okay? With their credibility, sometimes you don't use money, you do something else to unlock the locks. Or kalimatin tayyibatin, which I'll get to later, a pure word, something good to say. If a person aids their brother or sister with one of these 3, what happens? حُشِرَ مَعَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. That this person will be resurrected with the prophets, the truthful ones, the Siddiqeen, the truthful ones, which they'll usually say are the Imams, the Shuhada and the Salihin, the righteous ones. Like these are the best ones to be with in Jannah, right? And the Quran itself ends with this verse. It says, وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. Guess what? These are the best people to be resurrected with and to be living with in Yawm al-Qiyamah. So Imam is saying here, look, these locks, don't take them for granted. Sometimes you have the lock in your own life. Sometimes you notice someone else has a lock in their life. If I can help with one of these 3, why not? حُشِرَ مَعَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ وَالصِّدِّقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ. All right, let's talk about the first one and give some examples and stories about Imam al-Hassan in regards to the first one. The first one, it says sometimes you have the key to the locks on people's lives because you might have the wealth that they need to unlock that lock. Example, there's a famous story that a person comes to Masjid al-Nabi and he enters, there's a person there, and this person who's entering, he has blood money that he owes. Back then, accidents would happen. Even today, accidents will happen. Yeah? Sometimes something happens, something goes wrong, you accidentally take someone's life, let's say. Accidents happen. Or you hurt somebody, you injure them, they lose a limb, whatever it is, God forbid, God forbid. But this is where blood money has been legislated in Islam that at least compensate in that way, make up for it. This person had blood money on his shoulders. Blood money is expensive though. Yeah? And so he goes to the masjid trying to find some help. This person has a lock on their life now. Now, I do want to say this, that the expectation is that if you can open the lock without messing up other things, that's when the expectation is there, I would say, to unlock these locks for people. Not if it's going to cost a bigger price somewhere else. We have to be wise about these matters as well. Anyway, this person enters, as someone sitting, says, hey, can you help me? He says, here's 5 dirhams. 5 dirhams is like 20 bucks or something, man. It's not going to get you anything. He says, I don't know, this is blood money we're talking about here. I owe a lot. How much? Like 1,000 dirhams, they say. This person He says, go over there. You've all heard the story, right? Go over there, you see that those individuals there, go ask them. Who are they? Al-Hassan, Al-Hussein, and Abdullah bin Ja'far, the husband of Bibi Zainab, salawatullah alayhim ajma'in. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. So he goes there. Now, when he goes there, Al-Hassan alayhi salam notices and understands, okay, this person is really stuck. I have what it takes to an extent. He helps. It says that he gave 500 dirhams to that person. Okay. This person is now 500 short. It says Imam Hussein gave 490. Okay. That's interesting. I don't know if anyone can guess why. I would not have guessed why, but look at the adab and respect Imam Hussein shows Imam Hassan. He drops it by 10. I'm not as if worthy enough to do exactly what my brother did. I'm going to drop it by 10 and 490. This guy can figure out the other 10 probably on his own. This is interesting because I'll say this on the side, a little parenthesis, let's open it here. Let's not forget to close it later though. That sometimes you have the means for something, but you have to be careful not to hurt other feelings. I'll give you an example. I heard this example once, it was nice, I thought I'd share it. One of these ulama, I heard him once, he said that if it's, let's say, your mother's birthday, you 2 or 3 brothers and sisters that you are want to get mom a birthday present. MashaAllah, all of you are above 30, 40 years old now. You're living your lives, yeah? And you're set and all of that. But one of you happens to be, let's say, an Uber driver. The other one happens to be an entrepreneur. Now, the entrepreneur is the younger one. You are the older one. Okay. Now, you tell me, a person who's just like, and there's nothing wrong with that, of course, driving cars around. But the person who's an Uber driver, let's say, versus a person who's an entrepreneur and living the life, they're going to be different money-wise, correct? All right. This scholar said this, very interesting. Look at how far out they look, these ulama. He said, hey, younger one who is well off, if you're buying mom or dad their birthday gift, let's say, a birthday gift, or giving them, I don't know, whatever you're giving them, don't buy something that you know the older brother can't afford and is going to look kind of weak in front of you and the rest because he can't afford what you bought for mom. Right? So, for example, this guy can afford, I don't know, buying their mom a Porsche or something. Okay? But what should they do? Let's see what older brother, older sister does. Or maybe even ask them, hey, what are you doing for mom on her birthday? Oh, you're getting her like something like that? Okay, like how much does that cost? Like $200-$300? Okay, we'll get something a little bit less of that. And if you really love mom and you want to wish her a happy birthday, later on buy her the Porsche. And just be like, hey mom, I had some extra money. This has nothing to do with your birthday. But here's a Porsche, man. You know? Why are you going to make older brother look bad or weak? Look at the extent of the diqqah, okay, and precision when it comes to these matters, of not breaking somebody's heart. Okay. Imam al-Hussein gives 490. Because I'm the younger brother, as if. He's the older brother. He should stand out the most. Just because you can lecture better than your older brother doesn't mean you should. If you catch my drift. I know he's watching. Keeping me in check. Just because you're famous, just because you're on social media killing it, doesn't mean you kill the older brother when it comes to his lectures. Okay? So these are those diqqah, those precise little points here and there that make a big difference actually. Yes, when it comes to that spiritual growth of ours. Recite salawat. So it says that Imam al-Hassan gave 500, Imam Hussein gave 490. And then Abdullah bin Ja'far was there, he gave 480. 10 less than Imam al-Hassan, or Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Once again showing that respect. Of course he was younger, right? Yes. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. And of course these great figures of ours, they were not attached to the dunya the way a person like me is. And so for him, for Imam al-Hassan, for example, when he has, he'll give. They say that he was on a mule once, and someone, stroked the mule, probably the mule's neck, stroked it and said, wow, what a nice mule you have, Imam Hassan. He said, you like it? He got off and he gave it to him right there. Right? Now mules, of course, versus horses aren't, it's like a Honda versus like a Lexus. Horse will be Lexus, mule will be Honda, but still he gave the mule to that individual just because they liked it. And the Imam, of course, we know how generous he is. The Kareem of Ahlul Bayt, they call him. All right. So that's one. Bimalin, they unlocked the lock on this person's life because of that blood money. Through what? through the money that they had, the imams that they had. Okay, let's move on. Jah, credibility. Sometimes it's not even about you doing something for someone through the money that you have, but rather it's through the credibility that you have. Example, I'll give you a story, you'll get what I'm trying to get at here. Once again, Imam al-Hassan. In this story, it says that he was doing i'tikaf. For those of us who might not know what i'tikaf is, one of the greatest forms of worship, yes, that we have, that's usually neglected, is something called i'tikaf, which is a minimum of 3 days that people go into the masjid, and it has to be a special masjid according to majority of maraja. And they are going to be there for 3 days and 3 nights, and they do not leave except, of course, an emergency comes up or something urgent comes up. For 3 days and nights, you're there and you're doing ibadah. It's so cool because back home, like in Mashhad, for example, in Rajab, I think they would do this. In Rajab, there was like a national i'tikaf campaign that would happen. You would be in the haram of Imam al-Rida, and then you would see in some of the rooms, there's people just sleeping there, or they're just sitting there listening to a lecture or doing salat and all of that. And back then, there were no phones. Nowadays, we'll have that distraction, but all they're doing is dhikr and remembering Allah and worshipping Allah. They say that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the last 10 days of Ramadan, he would do the i'tikaf as well. Yeah, so it's kind of like a lock-in, but our understanding of lock-in is a little different than that lock-in that the Ahl Bayt would do. You lock yourself into the masjid, and yes, you will have minimal food probably. One of the conditions of i'tikaf is that you fast those days that you're there. So it's total as if detachment from dunya. Anyway, it says that Imam al-Hassan was doing i'tikaf where? Masjidul Haram. Wow, that's like such a blessing. And so during i'tikaf, in tawaf, someone comes to the Imam, says, "Oh Imam, I owe somebody some money, but my debtor is saying that I have to pay right now. I have to pay right now, but I do know if you put a good word in, yeah, he'll probably relax a little bit and he'll be flexible on that. And he'll say, give it later. Because Imam Hassan, stepped in. Now, what did the Imam do? He's in i'tikaf, one of the greatest forms of worship. He gets up and he leaves for that specific case, okay? It says here. Goes and speaks to that person. Hey, I heard that you're asking for your money back, and this person's struggling, doesn't have the means. Give him some time. And so, sure enough, that person gave this individual time. The Imam didn't even spend anything here. What he did was he used a little bit of that credibility, of course, in a very good and kosher way, an acceptable way. Once again, there are red lines that we never cross. But in this case, the Imam does this. He comes back to the Masjid al-Haram. They say Ibn Abbas asks him, "Oh Imam, you left i'tikaf." He said, "I heard Rasulullah say that a person who takes care of the needs of an individual is as if they've done 1 month of i'tikaf." Okay? This is that facet of deen and religiosity that we sometimes forget. That we think religiosity just refers to salat, roza, fasting, and all that, which is awesome, which is wonderful, which is necessary. But there's this akhlaqi side of things as well. So the Imam puts in a good word. He could have not gone. He could have been like some of us who sound like we're all super religious and no, I'm in i'tikaf right now. How dare you talk to me about money? Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. No, it wasn't the case. Of course, there are some ahkam in regards to i'tikaf, but I'm not going to get into those right now. Some might ask, oh, how did the Imam leave? Doesn't that break your i'tikaf? Well, as I said, there are some urgent matters that you can leave for. Okay, so sometimes just hearing it from someone that's important makes the difference. That person who knows they're important, well, they should do that. If they do something to open up the lock on someone's life, alhamdulillah, حُشِرَ مَعَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَحَسَنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. Yeah. Sometimes just the person saying it, I'll give you an example of what I mean. Just the individual that is saying it makes the difference. I heard this story that a couple of youth had gone to Ayatul Bahjat for advice. And so you're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm going from Tehran all the way to Qom, going to the Masjid of Ayatul Bahjat, trying to seek him out and get some advice, that special advice from him. So they go all the way there. What's his advice to them? And this is no surprise for those who know the likes of Ayatul Bahjat and how, what the advice they would give looked like. Ayatollah, he told them, hey, make sure to try your best to pray on time. Oh, so deep, huh? So they hear this advice, they're coming out, These two youth, one of them turns to the other, he says, we could have asked our normal sheikh, like in our center, or the masjid, masjid, this question, they would have given us this answer. Like nothing special about that. Like we could have asked Sheikh Amin about this, and he would give this answer, you know? So like why, we went all the way to Aitul al-Bahjat, all this trouble, so that we hear something we could have heard from our local sheikh. The other one had been touched though. He said, because of what I heard him say, I'm never going to miss my salat for the awwal waqt and praying on time ever again. What's the difference? The difference is someone who's done it themselves for 80 years is telling you it has an effect. Yeah, so don't come to me though for these types of advice, brothers and sisters. Those are the ones who will touch an individual. It's funny, one of my friends back home, he was more of a spiritual person, but he was also funny. And so once he told me, he said, yeah, someone came to me and said, one of my relatives or one of our friends, someone we know is ill. Please do dua for them. And he said, I did dua for them and they passed away. Sometimes it might backfire, so be careful who you go to. But these individuals, when they say something, it has a huge effect. I remember reading a story actually by in regards to Ayatollah Ansari Hamadani. He's one of my favorites. That he also, this is just to illustrate how sometimes the person just speaking has that effect, right? That there was a person who was struggling with a sin, and he goes to this Ayatollah Ansari Hamadani, which, as I said, he's one of my favorites. There's some very interesting stories about him and the type of person he was. He says, I'm struggling with this sin. He turns around and says to him, don't sin anymore. Duh. And he goes, well, guess what? This person actually, because of what he had said, never touches that sin again. Yeah, sometimes the person speaking, it has an effect. And they know that, and they will capitalize on it in a good way. What's wrong with that? They say, Imam al-Hassan, once again, there was a seasonal market that would happen. From Basra, people would come, merchants would come all the way to Medina with their goods for a seasonal market that they would hold, okay? Imam Hassan, alayhi salam, he would go there, and he would bargain. Hey, can I get this for a little bit cheaper, a little bit cheaper, a little bit cheaper? Imam Hassan, like on one hand, this is what you're doing, giving away money to people, but on the other hand, you're bargaining what's going on. And so when he would get the goods, they say that he would go and give it to the poor, and he said, I'm bargaining for them so I can get more bang for the buck, more bang for the dinar. So I can get more to them. Or else, if it was for myself, I wouldn't bargain. You know me, Imam Hassan. Yeah. So Imam Hassan is bargaining. They're probably going to give him the discount he's asking for. Of course, he's not going to ask for something crazy. He's going to make sure that they're taken care of as well, those merchants that are, doing the work and putting in the effort to make a living. But at the same time, yeah, he will push for a little bit less. He knows. He's like, look, you don't need that crazy car that you want to buy. All right? If you try to make all this profit, I know you're going to do really good. But I know you don't need that much money. So go down a little bit. These people, of course, you don't give a discount unless you like the person, right? So this person is going to give discount. Why? Because Imam Hassan is putting his name. This is big, brothers and sisters. This is big. When you put your name on the line, yeah, you use your name. Why? Because I'm taking care of others. So, bimalin aw bijahin. You do it either with your wealth. You unlock locks from people's lives with your wealth or your credibility. You use that. أو كلمة طيبة. Or a nice, pure word. Some people, yeah, they won't have the wealth maybe. They won't have the credibility. They can at least solve people's problems with something good to say at least. Yeah, instead of adding to their problems, being part of the solution. Now we have two things here I want to talk about. Sometimes the pure word that you're going to use, because the hadith was talking about unlocking locks from the life of a mu'min brother or sister, right? Sometimes that person is not even your brother or sister to begin with. They're a problem themselves, okay? They might be a nasibi, as we'll see in this story that's about to come. But by using a pure word, you turn them into your brother. So that you can, that's the biggest thing actually, that you can do for somebody, to turn them into a brother that's going to make it to Jannah, inshallah, then you take care of them. Okay? There's a very famous story in regards to this that I think most of us have heard, inshallah. That, that man, that maybe he was an older man, maybe he was just a normal aged man, middle-aged, whatever it was. comes from Sham. Comes from Sham all the way to Medina. Maybe he was going there for Umrah, maybe he was going there to visit the Prophet's grave, etc., whatever it was. Now, as you all know, in Sham, people, that's the Imam Ali hating city back then, or region back then, yeah? Muawiyah had worked on these people for 10, 20 years. Think about it, you're hundreds, if not maybe 1,000, 1,500 kilometers away from Medina, maybe more. There's no WhatsApp, there's no Telegram, there's no communication back then. You're living and growing up in a far-off land, you've heard that there was a prophet, you know that the ones here in Sham, they're all Muslim, but you hear that there's these problematic people as well, called Ahlul Bayt in Medina, yeah, who are enemies of the Prophet, enemies of Islam, because they're against the Khalifa Muawiyah, all right? Now, you're growing up in such an environment and setting, and then to add to the problem, Muawiyah is actively, yes, going against the Imams, speaking against them, doing whatever he can to destroy their image. Okay, of course, these people are going to grow up with hate of these individuals called the Ahlul Bayt. As a matter of fact, you've heard me say this before probably. Some say that in Sham, the people believe that Ahlul Bayt, that the Quran speaks about, that the Hadith speak of, Ahlul Bayt is Banu Umayyah, which is Muawiyah and his buddies and his relatives. That's what they were thinking, some of them, according to some scholars. Anyway, so a person is growing up with the hate of Ali and Al Ali. Okay? So he's in Medina now. Then he sees some people are standing around an individual. What's going on? Who's that person? Oh, that's Hassan. Oh, Hassan, son of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Whoa, this is exactly the opportunity I was waiting for. Let me get close to Allah by going and bashing, God forbid, Imam al-Hassan. It's as if like, this guy's thinking to himself, I never got the chance to slander Ali, so let me slander his son. Okay. So he goes and starts slandering. Now look at what Imam Hassan, he says a pure word here, okay? He says a pure word to this person. Probably the ones around Imam Hassan wanted to attack this guy. But Imam Hassan looks at the root of the problem. Is this person an actual hater? Or are they just upset about something else? And maybe they're not in a good mood right now. Maybe let's see, let's figure it out. Imam Hassan asks him, where are you from? He says, I'm from Sham. He says, oh, so you're a gharib here. You don't live here. You're a stranger here. Probably I'm thinking that you're hungry, thirsty, you don't have a place to stay now that you're here. You know, would you like someone to take care of you, help you? Do you need anything like that? Now this person can either turn around and say, no, I don't want any of your help. I don't want anything to do with you. La'nat, astaghfirullah on you. This person though turns around and says, oh, okay, let's do it. So you had those issues apparently. Lots of times, yeah, a person might dislike someone or something, not because of that thing in and of itself, but because of certain surrounding circumstances around that thing. Yeah? This individual wasn't an actual Nasibi apparently then. That he was, by tongue he was a Nasibi. He's cursing the Imam. Astaghfirullah. But deep down inside, it's not because, in other words, it's if this person knows what a good person this is, they're not going to hate them anymore. And let me open another parenthesis. By the way, we forgot to close the other one, remember? But let's open this parenthesis really quick. Brothers and sisters, Shia, Sunni, all of that kind of stuff. We have to see sometimes someone likes someone that we don't like. But because they're convinced that that person is a good person, if they knew that what that person had actually done in history, they wouldn't like them too much. We have to keep this in mind when it comes to how much I like or dislike people because of their association with someone else. I have to keep that in mind. Yeah, it's proven to me that someone dislikes Ahlul Bayt or likes those who dislike Ahlul Bayt just because, then we have a problem. Usually that's not the case though. And so we might be able to find ways to connect. Parentheses closed. Imam al-Hassan, they say, took care of this person, received him as a guest. Now this person is not leaving. He says, I entered, this is the famous line, he says, I entered Medina while the most mabghud individuals to me were Ali and his children. Mabghud meaning the ones that I hate the most. But now I'm leaving with them being the most beloved to me. So there's a person, has a problem, the Imam, with some words here, and of course helped him out later as well, but with some words and figuring out what he's supposed to say in that moment, opened up the locks. This person all of a sudden becomes a lover of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam. This is what we learn from the Imams, how we deal with these people. Now that's people that have an issue. They're not even the brother or sister to begin with, let alone if there's a brother or sister from the get-go. If someone's a brother or sister, then of course kalima tayyiba is what we have to use to unlock the locks that they have, for sure, if we can. So for example, one of the biggest locks for people is they are wasting their time, wasting their lives into oblivion until they leave this dunya. And that's when they wake up, they're like, oh my God, I didn't do anything for my akhirah. So one of the best locks to lift from people's lives is to remind them of the akhirah. Okay? Kalima tayyiba. And so they say that Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, he was passing by a group of people on Eid al-Fitr. Okay? On Eid al-Fitr, and he notices they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing on a big day and special day like this. Okay? So what happens? The Imam turns around and says something to them. He might have even had a little bit of a harsh tone. Because these are my brothers now. And so I got to make sure they don't mess up. Doing the wrong thing on a day like this, because for us, Eid usually is the day that, finally freedom. Okay? But for the Imams, like, this is a very holy, spiritual day that we can make the most of. Look at what he says here. He says to these individuals, he says that إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَعَلَ شَهْرَ رَمَضَانَ مِضْمَارًا لِخَلْقِهِ. Allah made the month of Ramadan, yes, it's like a place where you compete with each other, a stadium in which sports take place in. It's a place where you will compete with each other to get the best rewards. And the rewards are for everyone. If someone gets first place, you can also get first place. That's awesome. The Imam says, Shahr Ramadan was a time like this. Okay. فَيَسْتَبِقُونَ فِيهِ بِطَاعَتِهِ. So they compete against each other in a good way, a constructive, positive competition. Compete with each other through what? Through obedience of Allah, towards His satisfaction. So there will be some who will fall ahead, they will be winners. There are some who will fall short and not do what they're supposed to do, they're the losers. The Imam just reminds them with a pure word. This is echoing what the Quran says. Reminding them that, look, on a day like this, you shouldn't be doing certain things. Yeah, and for you and I, we also have to remember this. Like, okay, Ramadan doesn't mean, okay, now we can go back to our old ways. No, now is the time for a new me. That's what it is. The new me that I discovered in the month of Ramadan now has 11 months ahead of them. That's how I'm supposed to look at it. Not, okay, let's go back to our old ways now. Sigh of relief. The Imam reminds them about this. And it says, as he goes on, and it says, ثُمَّ مَضَى. The Imam shares these pretty beautiful words with them, and he goes on with his business, the Imam. Just drops the mic there and goes. Yeah? What happens here? Of course, these people are going to probably take heed. Imam al-Hassan, son of Fatima, spoke to us about something like this. Yeah? So the Imam here, he capitalizes on that. He opens a lock for these people. He didn't give them wealth. He didn't give the huge credibility or anything to solve a problem for them. He just reminded them of something that they believe in themselves with a pure word. Sometimes Amr Ma'ruf is a pure word. All right, having said all of that, brothers and sisters, I'm just going to end with this. These are the things that a person unlocks locks that people might be suffering from in their lives. I just want to say this. If we ever find ourselves unlocking people's locks, the whole world doesn't have to find out. Yeah? Do it. Do what you want to do. Do what you got to do. Then, figuratively speaking, I'm saying, take a look at Allah and wink at Allah. Like, you got it. I know you saw. That's all that matters. Yeah. This is the worst thing that can happen to an individual. That they do whatever they do, and they get the reward of it right here. The reward that they were seeking was people's recognition. That is super important, brothers and sisters. The ones who are going to make it on that side are the ones who don't disclose these things. Sometimes the situation calls for that, but usually, brothers and sisters, the situation doesn't call for it. All I would say is, you take a look at Allah, you take a wink, and Allah, inshallah, is going to wink back. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq for ziyarat of Imam al-Hassan and the rest of the Imams in Baqi'. Give us tawfiq for Umrah and Hajj, inshallah ta'ala, to give us the ma'arif of the Ahl Bayt, the shafa'ah of Ahl Bayt, inshallah, Yawm al-Qiyamah, with the barakah of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. اللهم
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله وأنه حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربي. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا علي يا عظيم يا غفور يا رحيم أنت الرب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. وهذا شهر عزمته وكرمته وشرفته وفضلته على الشهور. وهو الشهر الذي فرضت صيامه عليه. وهو الشهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلت خيرا من 1000 شهر في هذا المن ولا يمن عليك من علي بفكاك رقبتي من النار في من تمن عليه وادخلني الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله وأنه حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد كذلك الله ربي. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. تسبيح الرزق. سلام عليكم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور. اللهم أغني كل فقير. اللهم أشبع كل جائع. اللهم اكس كل عريان. اللهم اقضِ دين كل مدين. اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب. اللهم رد كل غريب. اللهم فك كل أسير. اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين. اللهم اشف كل مريض. اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك. اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك. اللهم اقضِ عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر، إنك على كل شيء قدير. صلوات.
Amin, inshallah, ziyarat will be recited after dua. Please remain seated as the volunteers pass through and set up the dastarkhan for the serving of iftar, inshallah. Mu'mineen, we will be starting dua in the next 10 minutes, inshallah. We will be starting dua iftitah in the next 10 minutes, inshallah. Inshallah, we are starting dua iftitah shortly. Apologies on the brother's side. The projector screen is not working today. We are working on fixing it. So if you want to follow along with the dua, please open it up on your cell phones or your handheld devices to read along with the Shaykh. We are starting momentarily.
Recite the salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي، وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبره تكبيرا. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره وحمده، الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يده، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما، إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير، مع حاجة بي إليه عظيمة، وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وصفحك عن ظلمي، وسترك على قبيح عملي، وحلمك عن كثير جرمي، عندما كان من خطئي وعمدي، أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك، وأريتني من قدرتك، وعرفتني من إجابتك. فصرت أدعوك آمنا وأسألك مستأنسا، لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك. فإن أبطأ عني عتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي أبطأ عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلم أر مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لئيم منك علي يا رب. إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك. كأن لي التطول عليك، فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إليه والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك. فارحم عبدك الجاهل، وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك، مجري الفلك، مسخر الرياح، فالق الإصباح، ديان الدين، رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه، وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق، باسط الرزق، فالق الإصباح، ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى، وقرب فشهد النجوى، تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله، ولا شبيه يشاكله، ولا ظهير يعاضده. قهر بعزته الأعزاء، وتواضع لعظمته العظماء، فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه، ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه. فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني، وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني، وبهجة مونقة قد أراني، فأثني عليه حامدا، وأذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه، ولا يغلق بابه، ولا يرد سائله، ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين، وينجي الصالحين، ويرفع المستضعفين، ويدع المستكبرين، ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. الحمد لله قاصم الجبارين، مبير الظالمين، مدرك الهاربين، نكال الظالمين، صريخ المستصرخين، موضع حاجات الطالبين، معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وعمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. وصل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك. استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله. مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له. أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به وانصره وانتصر به وانصره نصرا عزيزا وافتح له فتحا يسيرا واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملنا وما قصرنا عنه فبلغنا. اللهم المم به شعفنا واشعب به صدعنا وارتق به فتقنا وكثر به قلتنا وأعزز به ذلتنا وأغن به عائلنا واقض به عن مغرمنا واجبر به فقرنا وسد به خلتنا ويسر به عسرنا وبيض به وجوهنا وفك به أسرنا وأنجح به طلبتنا وأنجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وأعطنا به سؤلنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آماننا وأعطنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين. اشف به صدورنا وأذهب به غيظ قلوبنا واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكثرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا. فصل على محمد وآله وأعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله وبضر تكشفه ونصر تعزه وسلطان حق تظهره ورحمة منك تجللناها وعافية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. السلام على 9 المعصومين من ولد الحسين. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان. الأمان الأمان من فتن الزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.